reflective of numbers all across. As you mentioned, 8.8% this year and 9.4% next year. I think clearly the focus is on tech talent. I think which brings us to 2 points. Not only is that sectors which have very strong tech skills or tech demands, like high product, high technology, IT, ITES, e-commerce companies end up having the higher increase projected for next year. At the same time, what this also means is that this is not a flash in the pan sort of year where people are giving increments because last year was a bad year. If tech talent is here to stay, and if tech talent is going to command the premium that clearly our data shows it is, then it's going to be a longer term phenomenon. So the war for talent is here. It's going to be here for some time because today tech talent is making an impact on a majority of sectors, even the non-traditional sectors. And as long as that can actually fuel the disruption, you will see the demand for the talent go up. So we believe that these numbers will probably play up over the next 2 to 3 years. And clearly, tech talent or talent which has stronger digital focus seem to be in a stronger place as far as commanding salary premiums is concerned.
So then tell me who's winning this war at the moment, Roopank. On one end, you've got really large, well-established IT companies. These could be your mid-caps, these could be your large caps. On the other hand, you've got these really well-capitalized startups, who've raised a lot of money. They're agile. They're still thinking they're at day one, day zero. So who's winning this tech war, this tech talent war at the moment?
So if I were to just look at the pure numbers per se, while overall tech companies have given out high increases in the range of 9 to 10%, both this year and projected for next year, if you were to look at a comparison between the larger established tech companies and the startups, if you were to call it a war, and if you were to call a current situation of the war, then I would probably say that the startups have a stronger hand here in terms of the kind of numbers that we are seeing emerging from them. If you look at a comparison, while overall India Inc. numbers, as you rightly said, was 8.8% for all of India. If you look at the startup talent, which is largely made up of tech talent, they are looking at a 15.7% hike. So that's almost like 1.7 to 1.8x of the India number. Even for 2022, while India Inc. is talking about a 9.4% number, the startup ecosystem is talking about a 16.9%, almost a 17% number. So again, hovering around the 1.7 to a 1.8x. Even if I look at the kind of promotions or growth that people are seeing in the startup ecosystem, it's much higher. Take this for example, almost 14.7% of the employees in startups are promoted as compared to 11.6% for India Inc. But at the same time, this is also fueling a much stronger war for talent within startups. So attrition for startups was 23.6% as compared to 20% for India Inc. So, you have to take the rough with the smooth. Yes, the startup talent is expecting and can expect a much higher increment, but then also the war for talent is much stronger there. As a result, the retention measures and levers to retain talent also need to be far more robust in the startup ecosystem.
So when you look at traditional IT companies, I don't know whether they've started throwing the same kind of perks as yet that startups are. For example, and I'll take this example because it was widely quoted. BharatPay said we will offer iPads, we will give BMW superbikes. Soon thereafter, you heard about HCL Tech talking about Mercedes cars. So have you started seeing these kind of perks being thrown out by traditional IT companies, mid-cap IT companies to retain talent or to attract talent?
So these kind of benefits or perks are being given out, but I would say probably more by the mid-cap than the large cap. The larger companies still go with a more conservative approach of a 9 to 10% increment, possibly higher variable pay and better growth opportunities when it comes to their overall talent ecosystem. Throwing in things like, a fancy car or some other very strong benefit policy, which is appealing to, an employee, would still be more applicable or more prevalent in the mid-cap or the more newer companies which want to establish and create that bit of pull. I think we are not seeing that happening as much in the larger, more established companies, which believe in the power of having a very strong employee value proposition, a very strong career growth path, international opportunities that will supplement the kind of robust increases that they are giving year on year.
So you're not going to give me specific examples of the kind of perks that we're seeing, even if it's by these mid-caps and small-cap IT companies?
So I think they are what you just mentioned. I think, we have heard of instances where fancy cars, BMWs, Mercedes, Audis have been given out to, senior level management, in some cases, even, mid-level executives. But I think beyond that, it's something which just catches the fancy of these people, which makes them feel a little better, which makes them, feel a little bit more wanted by the companies. But as I said, I think this is more exception than the rule. We still expect the larger companies to go with better increments and better variable pay. When it comes to startups, right, their increments have been much higher. And what they play is more on the wealth creation aspect. They try and give out stock. They bring in long-term incentives hooks so that as and when there is a fresh investment of equity by an investor, or when these companies start to go public and bring in IPOs, the wealth creation is huge. And that lures a lot of the people in the startup world to stay with the companies for the next 4 to 5 years in their incubation stages of the company.
Variable pay. We had seen variable pay come down in 2020, 2021. What are companies telling you? Will that be back? The bonuses will be back in 2022?
Well, I think that's $1 million question. No pun intended. Because I think everybody is looking forward to a better bonus payout last year. I think two things here in place. The bonuses have fallen, but not fallen as sharply as one would have thought. If you look at the 2020 bonus numbers, which were reflection of 2019 performance, it was 13.2% for India overall as a percentage of fixed pay. That number has fallen to 11.8%, which is a 1.4% drop. One would have expected this to be a much sharper drop. So it's not that they have dropped that drastically, right? If you look at, sectors like financial institutions or, e-commerce or FMCG, the drop's been around about 2%. And this is quite acceptable given how the year was. I think it's a very strong possibility that bonus numbers will certainly go back or even go beyond what we had seen in 2020, given the robustness of the performance and how companies are growing. So 2022 payouts can certainly be looked forward to, because they're going to be much better from what our early indications is. Most companies start planning for bonuses around September, October. So still early days, but indications for the annual overall numbers and the performance, which will drive variable pay, look positive. And there is no reason to believe, unless there is a huge impact of a third wave or something else, that bonuses will not be as good as what they were in 2019.
My final question to you, if you're seeing these kind of salary raises and going back to pre-COVID COVID levels, I think that seems to be one of the big takeaways. That would mean that starting salaries have also gone up?
Yes, they have. If you look at salary increases for junior management, which is the lower end of the management pay, they have gone up. They've gone up by almost 9-10% this year. They were up by around about 7-8% last year. So that is a big jump. Also, most when we had seen our campus study, which we had done early in the year, and that time we were still in the second wave. Even the campus study had shown that the campus salaries had gone up a little bit. Campus salaries likely to go up as well. And clearly, majority of the people who are joining the workforce seem to have more than one offer, which itself will, help in a better negotiation and bargaining power for them to be able to push up salaries. So going by those trends, yes, I think starting salaries should be going up as well.
And with that, Roopank, I'd like to thank you for giving us your time here on ET Now.
Thank you.
Just as India's economy was on the brink of a full-blown recovery,
India is fighting this battle against coronavirus infection, especially during the second COVID-19 disaster.
The second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic erupted. Now the government walks a tightrope, balancing between the urgent need for healthcare and reviving the economy. With depleting savings and falling incomes, many are also navigating the emotional fatigue brought on by the pandemic. But Indians are also better prepared now than ever before to deal with uncertainty. Consumer and investor sentiment is also more resilient. It's a bumpy road to recovery, but there's hope of light at the end of the tunnel. ET Now brings you a